That heavy guilt you feel after saying no isn't a flaw in your character. Psychologist Harriet Braiker spent years studying this exact pattern. In her book, The Disease to Please, she explains it's a survival strategy we learn, not something we're born with. Here's what makes it so confusing. The guilt often feels way bigger than the actual situation calls for. Researchers call this disproportionate guilt, when the emotional punishment doesn't match the real harm, which is usually nothing at all. There's a reason it feels so physical. Neuroscience shows the brain processes social rejection in the anterior cingulate cortex. That's the same region that registers physical pain, which is why saying no can really hurt. For a people pleaser, a simple no rarely feels like a boundary. It can feel like a threat to the entire relationship. And that perceived threat is enough to set off your brain's alarm system. This is the part most people miss. That guilt isn't a moral compass telling you that you did something wrong. It's fear wearing morality as a disguise. Studies on chronic accommodation reveal something surprising. People pleasers tend to overestimate how upset someone will be if they're refused. Sometimes, imagining a reaction 2 or 3 times worse than what actually happens. That gap between what you predict and what actually happens matters. It's the first real crack in the guilt's foundation, because most of the danger you're bracing for only exists in your head. To understand this pattern, we have to go back further than you'd expect. Attachment theory, developed by John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, shows that children adapt their behavior to feel safe and loved, whatever that takes. If love in your home ever felt conditional, tied to being helpful, quiet, or easy to be around, your young brain drew one clear conclusion. Compliance meant survival. Dr. Gabor Maté describes this as an impossible choice kids face, between being their true self and staying close to the people they need. And almost every time, connection wins over authenticity. If a child was punished, shamed, or met with cold silence for saying no, they learn something long before they can even reason about it. Refusal is dangerous. Some kids grow up managing a parent's emotions or carrying household stress that isn't theirs to carry. Psychologists call this being parentified, and it teaches a child that their worth is measured by how useful they are. By adulthood, all of this runs quietly in the background. So when your boss or a friend asks you for something, your nervous system can react as if you're still that child, facing a caregiver's disapproval. The guilt you feel today is really an echo, an old alarm still ringing in a house where the original danger doesn't live anymore. Most people know about the 3 classic stress responses: fight, flight, and freeze. But trauma therapist Pete Walker identified a 4th one called fawn. It means appeasing a threat just to stay safe. Fawning is your nervous system merging with someone else's needs and quietly erasing your own, because in childhood, that's exactly what kept the peace. So when you feel that urge to instantly agree or over-apologize or soften a no until it disappears, that's not your personality talking. That's your nervous system taking the wheel. Dr. Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory explains why this response feels so automatic. Our sense of safety gets regulated below conscious thought long before we can reason it through, which is why logic alone can't talk the guilt away. You can know, logically, that your no is completely reasonable and fair, and still feel your stomach drop the second you say it out loud. Logic and instinct aren't always speaking the same language. It also explains the compulsive over-explaining, that 5-paragraph text justifying a simple decline. Your body is trying to diffuse an attack before it even happens. Recognizing fawn as a physiological state changes everything. It's not a moral failing you need to fix. You can't shame a nervous system into calm, but you can slowly retrain it. Chronic people-pleasing doesn't just cost you peace of mind, it costs your body too. Harriet Braiker's research found it's linked to elevated stress, suppressed anger, and higher rates of anxiety. Every yes you don't really mean floods your body with stress hormones, built from resentment you never said out loud. Over time, that's linked to weaker immunity, disrupted sleep, and strain on your heart. In his book, When the Body Says No, Dr. Gabor Maté explores case after case, suggesting that habitually silencing yourself can take a real toll on your health over time. There's an emotional cost too, one that's harder to point to. Every inauthentic yes chips away at something psychologists call self-concept. Slowly, you lose track of who you actually are and what you actually want. And in relationships, people-pleasing tends to breed hidden resentment. Resentment is corrosive. Because the people around you agreed to a version of the deal you never actually consented to. Here's the twist though. Research on authenticity in relationships shows people actually trust and respect clear boundaries more, not less than constant accommodation. So the exact strategy you built to protect your relationships may be quietly weakening them, along with your health and your sense of self. Not everyone in your life is entirely innocent in this pattern. People who feel guilt easily can end up attracting others who benefit from that guilt, sometimes without either person fully realizing what's happening. In her book, Emotional Blackmail, Dr. Susan Forward describes a pattern called FOG: fear, obligation, and guilt. The exact three levers used to keep compliant people in line. Watch for the sulking, the guilt trip, the after everything I've done for you speech. These are pressure tactics, not genuine expressions of hurt. A healthy person might feel disappointed by your no, but they'll respect it. A manipulative one punishes it instead. That difference alone can be your most reliable clue. Research on reciprocity shows some people create a sense of debt on purpose. Small, unasked-for favors, done specifically so they can be called in later. It's a quiet setup most people never notice. Your discomfort with someone's reaction isn't automatic proof that you did something wrong. A lot of the time, it's actually proof that a control tactic just failed. The moment you stop absorbing guilt, that was never really yours. Relationships either grow more honest or reveal they were never quite what you thought. So, what does a healthier no actually look like? In their book, Boundaries, Drs. Cloud and John Townsend describe it well. Not as a wall against people, but as a property line showing what's actually yours to carry. Their core idea is simple. You're responsible to others, not for others. You owe people honesty and kindness, not the management of their emotions. A clean no doesn't need a defense attorney. Try practicing a decline without over-explaining it, because too much justification can quietly signal that your no is up for negotiation. Research in cognitive behavioral therapy shows guilt often fades through exposure. Every no you survive teaches your nervous system something new. That refusal doesn't actually lead to abandonment. Try the delayed response technique. Just say, "Let me check and get back to you." It interrupts the automatic yes and gives your rational mind time to catch up. Expect what's called an extinction burst. That's when people used to your compliance push back harder at first. Understand that pushback as evidence your boundary is working, not failing. Start small and decline a store survey or a minor favor that doesn't really matter. Boundary setting is a skill built through repetition, not a personality transplant you achieve overnight. Here's the paradox at the center of all this. For a recovering people-pleaser, feeling guilty is often a sign you did the right thing, not the wrong one. Psychologists draw a line between healthy guilt and toxic guilt. Healthy guilt follows real wrongdoing. Toxic guilt follows any act of simply protecting yourself. And yours is almost always the second kind. Try reframing the sensation itself. When guilt rises after a boundary, call it what it likely is: a withdrawal symptom from an old survival pattern, not a verdict on your character. It helps to remember something too. Every yes to someone else is a no to something in your own life. Your rest, your goals, your own family. Refusal is never free of cost. It's just redistributed. Self-compassion research from Dr. Kristin Neff points to something powerful. Treating yourself with the same kindness you offer others can dramatically reduce shame-driven behavior over time. The people truly worth keeping will adjust to the real you. That adjustment period feels uncomfortable, but it's temporary. The cost of erasing yourself for a lifetime is not. You were never put on this earth to be convenient. And the guilt you feel when you say no, it isn't the sound of you failing someone. It's the sound of an old cage door finally opening. If this video put words to something you've felt your whole life, do one thing right now. Drop a comment with the hardest no you've ever had to say, or the one you're still avoiding. Reading how other people fight this same battle reminds you of something important. You're not broken, you're not selfish, and you're definitely not alone. This community grows stronger every time someone shares their story. And yours might be the one that gives a stranger the courage to finally set a boundary. So if this resonated, hit subscribe and share it with the one person in your life who apologizes for everything. They need to hear this more than anyone. Your peace was never a luxury you have to earn. It's a baseline you're allowed to protect, starting today.